Bioactive vivariums, the art of creating a self-sustaining ecosystem that lives in harmony with your reptile. Most people know what bioactive vivariums are, what it means to go bioactive. However, the question of the day is going to be, do you guys know about all the added benefits you get when you take the plunge into bioactive vivs? Well, it's a good thing that is exactly what we're going to be talking about today. Stick around while I give you guys some of the best benefits that you get when you take your reptile's enclosure and turn it into a bioactive vivarium. Let's get into it. Kicking things off, let's get into it with number one, you don't have to clean the poop anymore. Generally. We all love our reptiles, right? I mean, I love them so much that I have 100 of them, but you know what I'm not so much as enjoying as a part of keeping those reptiles? That is cleaning poop. Poop cleaning is not fun. Poop cleaning is just never a fun time. You can't tell, well, I guess there would be one weirdo out there that loves this part of the job, but for the majority of us, we could really leave it if that was the case. I'm happy to say if you do build a successful bioactive vivarium, that will be the case, generally. Of course, this is going to be a little bit of a species specific. If we're working with stuff like the BCI, any boa constrictor, large constricted animals, and the larger lizards, tegus, monitor lizards, things of that nature, you'll end up having to do some spot cleaning unless you have just like, well, just an army of that cleanup crew. I mean, we're talking like 100,000. I bet 100,000 of those bad boys would clean up a tegu poop. It's a matter of how big the poop is, it's a matter of how many boys do we have boots on the ground. Probably asking yourself, Dakota, what are you talking about? What do you mean? If I don't clean up the poop, it's just gonna sit there and get gross and it's gonna make my reptile sick. Well, no, because during a bioactive vivarium, in the process of building one, we add this amazing thing called the cuck. The cleanup crew. It's usually cut down into two main ones. That is going to be your springtails and your isopods. Each one of these species playing a vital role in the bioactive vivarium. Of course, also a bunch of other things, beneficial bacteria, things of that nature, but we'll focus generally on these two for right now. Springtails are going to be your mold cleanup. Your molds, your funguses, the fuzzy stuff, the stuff that you don't want. The springtails are going to take care of that because they are decomposers, decompensators. Eat the mold. They enjoy the mold, and a great added benefit. Are you tired of the fungus gnats? Because the springtails will also outcompete those and eventually start eating their eggs as well. An absolutely amazing tiny little jumping bean that you can put in your bioactive vivarium and it cleans that mold for you, no problem. Dakota, poop isn't mold, poop is poop. What is poop? That brings us to the second part that we were talking about, the isopods. Now, isopods will eat a variety of different things, but they also eat decomposing matter, decaying wood, old leaves, and yes, even the reptile poop. Here at Dakota Blue Exotics, we own hundreds of reptiles, and having to clean poop of hundreds of reptiles was not a fun thing until 2023, when I got the idea to start Project Jungle and start building bioactive vivariums, and by God, has it cut down on the amount of poop I've had to touch with these hands. After so many years, they'll never be the same. Of course, when I talk about not having to clean poop ever again, depending on the reptile species, it is going to be dependent on the life cycle you're in for the bioactive vivarium, how old the enclosure is in itself. Because remember, when you build a vivarium in itself, it takes time to mature, to adult, those tiny little plants to grow, and that cleanup crew population to do its thing and populate to create more. During the training wheels of this period, when you're just getting it up growing, you know, the first couple of weeks to maybe the first couple of months, you may need to do some spot cleaning if you notice there's just too much poop in there and there's just not enough isopods in there to get the job done. But as time goes on, as the isopods populate and as the enclosure grows, you will have no problem with having the problem of cleaning poop. I've said poop a lot in this video. Moving on to the next benefit, let's talk about my tropical boys. The boys that love the humidity-loving geckos. And that is going to be number two. You are never going to have to struggle with humidity again. If there's one thing I absolutely love about bioactive vivariums, it's building mini jungles for my many geckos that I own over here. Fact of the matter is, since I've started building all these bioactive cages, I've not struggled with humidity whatsoever. It's been absolutely great for me. Even to the point where I've been having to mist less of the enclosures, or well, less often, because the plants are doing such a good job at holding and retaining the humidity that there's no need to continue misting the enclosure. Question probably is going to be, well, Dakota, why is humidity not a problem for you anymore? And that's going to come from the basics of building a bioactive vivarium and the two main ingredients. That is going to be, number one, a deep drainage layer, making sure your plants have enough room to root and grow into the vivarium that they were built in, well, put in. And number two, the live plants themselves. Plants are going to be vastly superior in retaining controlling humidity and helping humidity stay in the vivarium itself versus things like artificial and fake plants. Why exactly is that? I don't know, man. I'm not a scientist. I'm a dude that owns geckos. However, the facts don't lie. These bioactive vivariums hold moisture and humidity absolutely fantastically. This becomes especially prevalent as the enclosure matures. Looking at something like my morning gecko enclosure. This enclosure has been around for around 18 months, I want to say. It is fully grown out. It looks like a messy jungle, just the way I envisioned it. And it's gotten to the point where I only have to mist in there about every other day because it keeps the humidity so well. Plants themselves condensate water droplets that don't go away immediately. The glass condensates. It creates almost like a greenhouse effect. To the point where the animals thrive into it. The enclosure has been always great, and it requires minimal maintenance at this point. I probably should cut some of those plants down there, getting a little bushy, but other than that, I really haven't had to do much with that enclosure. So if you're a gecko guy like myself, you love the New Caledonian, the tokays, the day geckos, everything like we have over here, tropical stuff that needs high humidity, and you're struggling a little bit to maintain that humidity and the requirements that they have, give Bioactive a try, man, because I promise you, there will come a point where you're like, huh, I really don't have to do much with this thing anymore. I can just enjoy it. Quick, boys and girls, before we move on into the next topic, I just want to give you a little shout out to the website. Now, we've been talking about bioactive vivariums for the entirety of this video because that's what the video is about. However, did you guys know that I actually own a bioactive store? That's right, over at DakotaBlueExotics.com, you guys can get everything you'll need for a bioactive vivarium. This includes all of the plants you could ever want, a variety of tropicals, air plants, bromeliads. We have a variety of substrate lines, the cleanup crew, your springtails, your isopods. Basically, if whatever you would need to build a bioactive vivarium, you can get through us, the guy talking to you in front of a camera that is on a website. If that's something that interests you and you want to take the plunge into building a bioactive vivarium, I highly recommend our site because I get the money from it. But it's also really good. Head on over to DakotaBlueExotics.com or check out the link in my description. If you end up purchasing from me, I very much appreciate it. Let's get back into the video. Now moving into topic number 3, which is probably my favorite reason for going bioactive, and that is going to be number 3, the enclosure evolves with time. This is another great example with my morning gecko enclosure. I put 4 plants into it. That was going to be the crouton, the Swiss cheese monstera, a fern, and then I don't know what that other one is, like a fake prayer plant or something. This was back when I first started the journey back in 2023, and I really didn't have a plan going on, so I just stuck some plants in there and called it a day. And as you can see, with just those 4 plants that are about this big, they have now taken over the entire enclosure, creating a mini jungle. The process unfolds a little bit each time, every day, and that is a super incredible thing, man. Jehua gecko enclosure is also a great example. The vining plant there used to not be that big. It could barely reach that branch. Now it's grown over the branch to the point where I actually need to groom it because it's starting to hit the screen. Being able to see these plants grow into their enclosure, seeing the gecko utilize these new plants as covering, being able to lick water droplets off of it, and so much more is such a fun thing to witness. In my opinion, it makes keeping reptiles so much better, and just it adds a new variety to it, a new thing that you get to watch. You not only just get to see the reptile in its enclosure, you get to see all the plants growing in the enclosure. You get to spot a little random isopod running around under the leaf litter. You get to watch the enclosure evolve and grow with time with the reptile inside of it. Personally, man, I think that is just a really cool thing. Not to say, I don't get tired of looking at a tokay gecko every day, but how much cooler would it be is looking at a tokay gecko and then also looking down and seeing my tiny little 2-inch polka dot plant that I put in now be this size and starting to vine up. It just adds another thing. It just makes it that much cooler with owning reptiles. Then finally, boys and girls, writing down this list with one more really cool thing about bioactive vivariums, and that is going to be number 4. Objectively, man, they just look better. Say beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but let's be real here. You cannot tell me if you put a side-by-side of an enclosure with fake plants, some quirks and sticks going on, and then a fully done bioactive vivarium side-by-side by each other, that you guys would be like, yeah, I can't tell, man. It could be the left, it could be the right. Objectively, Bioactive vivariums are just cooler looking. It just looks better. And I think that stems from a couple of things. Number one, putting in the hard time and work that it takes to build a successful bioactive vivarium, taking the time to nurture the plants, to nurture the soil, to nurture your cleanup crew, to creating a successful environment for your reptiles is something that takes a little bit of work and takes a little bit of dedication. When it pays off, it turns into something absolutely beautiful. Second one being, it looks like a little slice of jungle. It looks like a little slice from where they come from. You know, we're taking these animals out of the wild. Depending on what species you have, they could be generationally captive bred or even just 1 or 2 generations from the wild. And we get to put them back in a box still, but a box that looks just like a little jungle that they were once a part of. Ecological warfare, if you will. It looks like where they came from, but they still know it's a box at the end of the day. It'll always be a box to them. But a pretty box nonetheless. There you got it, boys and girls. If there's one regret I have with building bioactive vivariums, it's the fact that I did not do it sooner. Because just like when you're trying to lose the belly, get that weight off of you, it's not an overnight process. And unfortunately, no matter how cool I make them, I gotta let Father Time do the rest to really build the perfect mature vivarium for these animals. If you guys like this video and want to check out some more of our bioactive vivariums, here is a building playlist that we did, or the last vivarium that I built on this channel. As always, thank you so much for taking the time in your day to follow us over here at Dakota Blue Exotics. I will see you guys next time, but until then, goodbye.